All right, so we're in the Basics 3 video, and in the last two videos, the first one we talked about pathing. If you don't understand pathing, CMS, MRCA, go see that one. And in the last video, we talked about this probability overlay. I just left it up with mine. So this is kind of a take off from the last one. And so in this one, we're going to talk about another basic feature of the cMsolver that is probably not completely understood. So just to kind of recap quickly, the answer is going to be in the green strip, okay, in that green overlay that changes based on your age. We showed that in the previous video. If you didn't see that or don't understand that still, go back and watch that video. All right. So you put in the age of the tester. And then up here, there's the chart. And it says right here, click to enlarge. So when you start out, the chart's not there, click to enlarge. So when I click this, it's going to open up the chart in a new browser tab, and it's going to make it full screen. And so we're going to have to go back and forth. Now, if you have a dual monitor system, you can drag that window over to the other one, and that makes it really handy. But we're just going to click on it real quick, and we're going to examine this chart. All right? So look at this. This is pretty telling what the answer probably is. So we've looked right here, and we said, all right, here are the possible kinships, one of these 6. And when we look at the chart, we can see this one is 60.9. I'm going to call it 61 for a round number. 61% likelihood, which means that it is twice as likely, almost, as all of the rest of the total possibilities combined, including those in yellow and those in white. Okay? So this is where you want to start. When you enter a centimorgan, so if I enter 212, okay, this is the chart for 212, second cousin, 45.6%. All right? The next one is 20 at second cousin once removed. Those two add together to 65.6. Again, for a 212 centimorgan, this second cousin and this second cousin once removed, that's twice as likely as all of the other dots combined. Okay? The chart is one of the most undervalued. This is the only tool that does a comparative histogram of the kinships. Okay? Now, some other tools, they do histograms, but that's if you click on second cousin, it tells you the histogram of the second cousins and the distribution of that. But this gives you the comparative percentages. That is an amazing addition. In fact, it really allows you to hone in no matter what centimorgan you put in. Let's say I put in 50 centimorgans. Look at all these dots. All right, let's go back here and take away my overlay. Look at all the possible kinships. This is kind of what you get when you are using some other stuff. We do the probability map, and we've eliminated about half of those into the green. But look at these bars. We can tell that there's a few that really stick out. So at 50 centimorgans, it's 32% likely to be a third cousin once removed and 25% likely to be a third cousin. That's 57% likely, okay, between the third cousin and the third cousin once removed. So those two kinships are more than all of the other kinships combined. Okay? Not twice as much like some of the others were, but just these two kinships are more likely than all of the other dots combined. That's so magical. That's what makes this tool really pop. Let me say that again. Those two kinships, the third cousin and third cousin once removed, are 57%, which means it's 57% one of those two and 43% to be any one of the rest of those dots. And then when you know that you got to focus in the green, that makes this so powerful, okay? So powerful. Again, we've already talked about in the previous video how unlikely it is to be in the yellows. It can happen, okay? It can happen, but you want to look in the greens first. But when you go, okay, look, there's all these in green. Where'd I look? You look at the chart. And I would look in this order. 32%, 25%. I wouldn't be looking at, 0.1%, 0.2%, 0.2, 0.2, 0.3, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5. That's 0.5%, 0.6%. These others, they're in green, but it's not likely. All right? This thing, like, let's put this back up to some others. You see there's fewer in here, but again, 0.4, 0.4, 0.4. And some of the other tools, they list this particular kinship for the 212 at 49% likely. That's not 49% likely, it's 0.4% comparatively. Okay, so different question being answered, and that is, if I have a 212 match, what's the most likely kinship for them to be related to me as? That's what I want to know. And this is the only tool that gives you a percentage for that. And it tells you 45%, 20%, 12, 7. Now notice right here, this says first cousin once removed and half first cousin once removed. All right, we're going to look at this again. So here's this first cousin once removed. That's a single path, half kinship. But, and this is what on the other tool is better, okay, in a way. It shows right here, half kinship, half first cousin once removed, right here. It shows it as 5%, or excuse me, 7%. But a first cousin, a dual path, is 5%. Now it's blue because the most likely is that it's going to be a single path. But there are documented cases of wildly randomly distributed DNA where this first cousin once removed shows up as a dual path and not just a single path. But it falls in the chart. It's right here. You got 7%, you got 5%. That's 12% of a first cousin once removed, either a full or half kinship, aka a single or dual path. All right. Now, in the others, that shows you like it's possibility on the left, possibility on the right. Well, it's the same first cousin once removed. What you don't know is it going to be a single path or dual path. And according to statistically, it's going to be slightly more likely to be a single path at 7% than a dual path at 5%. This is that right in the middle centimorgan. We change this up to 450. Well, there's no doubt. We go to 450, first cousin once removed, 60.9. And then let's see, where is, right here, half first cousin once removed, 2% versus 60%. Okay? So for this to be a single path at that high, it's 2%. And I'm going to tell you folks, a lot of times, and I'm not saying it is in your case, if you have this, but a lot of times, if that's the case, you really want to check your clusters for both of the great-grandparents involved. Because it could be that there's something in play there. All right? It's not coming through two paths, like you think, if it's blue. Okay. In this case, it's yellow, so it's most likely going to be a dual path. But if you are down here at the 2% and you say, oh yeah, mine's there, but it's a half, not a full. If your Centimorgans is that and it's a half path, there was some really strange DNA or something's typically not right. Okay. There's something not right there. You want to really double check it. It could be right, but you really, really, really want to check that. So if it doesn't show up, as the yellows and blues and reds for the singles and duals like you're expecting, I would double check those. Now, there are some exceptions, like we go back to the 212 and we look at it. Right here, the difference is 2% between a single path and a dual path, or a half or a full kinship right here. It's a 2% difference in the statistics. It should be a single path, okay? But it's only 2% different than being a dual path. So there are those. Look at the chart. This chart gives you an amazing insight. Like we said, when we get out here to 50, look at there. We have some very distinguishing bars comparatively, like we said, we get 0 point, 0 point, 0 point, 0 point. Over half of them are 0 point, less than 1%. And then when you get up here, it's 2% or less than 3% for all but the top 6. So even though there's all of these dots, we've now done the probability map overlay to narrow that down to the green. And with the chart, we're narrowing it down to the top 1 or 2, almost in every case, and then a couple that might be to check next. Again, that is the power of this tool. Nobody has the comparative histograms. Nobody has the probability overlay. I mean, yeah, we show all the kinships, but we're the only one that show the kinships for the endogamy and the pedigree collapse, the multi-pathing. The only one that distinguishes it so that you can visualize it. Okay, here's your single paths in the blue, here's your dual paths in the yellow, and if they're in red, they're a multi-path. Okay, they're a multi-path. You don't get to reds on a dual path. There's not enough DNA passing along. It would have to be everybody. If it's a dual path to get to red, you would have to get twice as much the DNA all the way down to you and all the way down to them for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or 10 generational differences. That's just not likely. No, you're more likely to find something up here in white than that to not be a multipath. It's a multipath. Okay, so you got reds that distinguish multipathing, endogamy, pedigree collapse, that kind of thing. Only one that does that. It distinguishes it by the pathings. Only one that has the overlay for the green, and the only one that has the comparative histograms on the kinships to tell you exactly where to focus. I mean, you don't want to be focusing if it's 0.01%. That's not where to start. All right. Because, I've seen the others. And I was like, oh man, I want to start there. On the 212, for example, one of the kinships here, right here, I show it in white as it's not going to be there. Okay. 2x great aunt or uncle. Okay, for me, it's in white because of my age. For somebody else, because these other tools, don't have the age overlay, for them, that's a realistic possibility, but it's a realistic possibility at 0.4%, even for them. What it shows up as 49%. So this tool is going to help filter it out. When I was looking for my DNA surprise, these are the things that I started to come up with in order to not repetitively every time I looked somebody's Centimorgan up, I went through the same process of looking through all of the kinships. And so I said, I've got to be able to narrow this down. Okay, so I can narrow it down with an age range. Okay, and that helped me a lot. And then I was like, well, I need to be able to compare this. So I started saying, okay, well, if it's an age range, what are the generational differences going to be? Then I started looking at the probabilities for each particular kinship. And that's how we got to this point. This is hands down the best for solving how somebody's related to you with the CM. The cMsolver is the best tool. All right, so that's the basics video, and we covered the histograms. The next one is going to be exciting, folks, so you want to catch the next one.